to stand and sing with us. Eddie Watkins' song, We Come Together.
Next to you.
Take a look at the person next to you.
Say I recognize the God in you.
Say I recognize the God in you.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Now lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together.
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 We come together in the name of love.
We come together.
We come together.
We come together.
We come together.
Come together.
We come together in the name of love.
Take a look at the person next to you.
Take a look at the person next to you.
Say God loves me and I love you too.
Say God loves me and I love you too.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together.
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 We come together in the name of love.
We come together.
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 We come together in the name of love.
From every walk of life, from every creed and color, it's picture free unite. Whoa. In honor of the God in each other. Take a look at the person next to you.
Look at the person next to you.
Say namaste, I bow to you.
Say namaste, I bow to you.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Feel the love in the sanctuary.
Now lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together.
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 We come together in the name of love.
We come together.
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 We come together in the name of love. The name of love. The name of love. Oh, thank you so much. That was so invigorating. Lovely. Thank you, Alan Dale. Good morning, my beloved spiritual family. My name is Judy Chapman, and I am your assistant minister. So I'm so delighted this morning to welcome you to the Center for Spiritual Living, Capistrano Valley, where everyone is invited to come and stay, because this is home. So whoever you are, whatever spiritual path you're on, you're welcome here. You're welcome here. We are a trans-denominational, non-denominational, multi-denominational center, which simply means that we believe in and we embrace diversity and equality for all. So welcome home. We will have, now we're going to do our flames of faith. And we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all people, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence that we call spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. We light the candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We light the candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and the practices of all indigenous peoples, the way of primal spirituality. We light the candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We light the candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We light the candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We light the candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as a path of love. We light the candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of compliance with the will of God as the highest calling. We light the candle for all forms of universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and the path of peace. We light the candle for all forms of New Thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. And as our practitioner, Paula Manis, lights that last candle, please let it represent the path that brought you to this center this morning. And now please join me for 2 minutes of sacred silence.
I know for each person here in the sanctuary and listening out in whatever land they're listening, that we are bound together by a golden thread of oneness, because there is only one God, one Spirit, that is present in each and every person. So my prayer for all of us this morning is that during this holiday season, we are the purveyors of peace everywhere we go, at work, at home, in every party, that we are the ones who bring it forward so that everything can be calm, lovely, and joyful. And as we do this, it blesses us in every way possible. So this morning, I know that each one of us are up to the task because we have the light of God within us. We have all that power to use for all the good that we possibly can. So I take this notion of oneness and togetherness and absolute calm, lovely living, and I send it to the law, knowing it is already so. And please join me by saying, and so it is. And now please join me. We see a world that works for everyone, where all life is honored as expressions of the divine, where kinship with all life prospers, where spiritual guidance is valued, and where there is peace, harmony, and justice for all. Today's affirmation, please read it with me. Wherever I go, I belong, and so it is.
Thank you so much, Paula. And now it's always my joy and my delight to welcome our wonderful, fabulous Allendale.
So our first song is one that Rick wrote probably over 30 years ago, but it applies perfectly to today's message about belonging to community. It's called Of the One Light.
We are the daughters and sons of the infinite. We are the dreamers of eternal life, loving and living and giving and laughing. We are the sons and the daughters of the one life. When you look around you, what do you see? If it's not good, tell me how can it be that I am in you and you are in me? Truth is the power that makes reality. Know that mankind is a family. Can't you see? We are the daughters and sons of the infinite. We are the dreamers of eternal life, loving and living and giving and laughing. We are the sons and the daughters of the one life. Regressive aggression, persistent resistance are some of the things that we put in our way to talk ourselves into a separate existence. Faith is the power that blows it all away. Time to return to your family. Don't you see? We are the daughters and sons of the infinite. We are the dreamers of eternal life, loving and living and giving and laughing. We are the sons and the daughters of the one life. There is no turning back, there is no leaving. Open acceptance and thankful receiving. For sooner or later, you end up believing. Love is the power that makes it all make sense. Welcome back into the family. Now you see, we are the daughters and sons of the infinite. We are the dreamers of eternal life, loving and living and giving and laughing. We are the sons and the daughters. Yes, we are. We are the daughters and sons of the infinite. We are the dreamers of eternal life, loving and living and giving and laughing. All are the sons
Thank you so much. That's beautiful, Rick. Beautiful song, and fits perfectly. Let's give him another hand, shall we? Good morning, CSL. I'm so glad to be with you here this morning. For those of you who may not know, my name is Reid, and I'm the spiritual leader here at Centers for Spiritual Living, Capistrano Valley. And before I get started, I want to appreciate someone who's one of our little unsung heroes, and that is Karen Meyer. She's on the camera. And the reason I'm appreciating her, not just for her camera, but for this lovely display. Karen is our decorator extraordinaire, and she does a wonderful job with our platform every month. You might notice there's a different display here at the podium, and each month she embodies our themes that we talk about. This month, actually this year, we've been talking about this wonderful topic of living everyday wonder. Have you been living everyday wonder through the months with me as we talk about these different topics? It's been great. It's been great to explore things that we might take for granted and to go deeper with them and to see what the meaning is within our own hearts and our own minds. The topic last month was home, and we're going to build on that a little bit this month and go from home to community. And I want to read something for you that is it's the teaser, if you will, or the summary of the month's theme. And I thought it was deep and profound, and I thought the best way to share it with you is to share it with you verbatim. Our author writes, "Community is the invisible membrane that we all live inside. Community is where we play out our lives on a larger scale, both consciously and unconsciously. It's the first circle in what ultimately creates our larger societal structures, beginning with family, all the way through the culture of a country. At the micro level, it is our individual choices that influence not only our own experience, but the character and subtext of our community. The beautiful alchemy of community unfolds when we come into realization that through our communities of concern and spheres of influence, we intersect with the greater whole. This is the point of power. When we begin to make active decisions about how we wish to be in community and actively welcome those we previously may have been unaware of. This is how our diverse world becomes a living gift to us all. This is how I want to read it one more time. This is how our diverse world becomes a living gift to all. And so when we think about community, she's really talking she or he, because the author's actually anonymous. We don't know who wrote that in the themes that were suggested by Home Office. But that author is really talking about community is where we begin to see our whole selves. We begin to see ourselves not only in who we know of as our own being, but when we begin to interact with other people and are in this thing called community, we begin to see ourselves reflected in one another. Now, sometimes we don't recognize that right away. Sometimes we begin to see someone else and see their personality, and something grabs our attention. I've had the experience myself. There'll be something wonderful about this person. There'll be a room full of people, and they'll just kind of stand out for me. And I'll later find out that they were reflecting something to me that was true about myself. And then there are those times when somebody stands out to me because I might get a little irritated or frustrated. And that, too, is an opportunity for me to love myself in the other person, to love myself as myself. And when we look at this powerful teaching that has been around for about 100 years, I think we really gained traction in the early years of this teaching as it evolved because it was all about the individual self. It was about growing and expanding and learning to love ourselves and self-awareness and experiencing ourselves as God. But when we take this idea to the level of community, it's a little bit of a different idea, isn't it? Sometimes it's hard to love ourselves, I admit, but sometimes it's even harder to love others when we don't appreciate what they bring. I appreciated what the author said about how that we are in this point of power and that we actively welcome those we previously may have not been aware of. It was very PC, don't you think? Very PC. She's really talking about not seeing God in the other. And we all practice that from time to time. We all practice that where we don't recognize God when we look outside ourselves. And so this idea of community is really this idea of beginning to see our whole selves and to begin to understand that we are part of a larger community. We are part of more than just communities, we're part of the one. Now today I want to not only look at this idea of community, but I want to combine it with the beautiful spiritual practices that happen this time of year that recognize the return of the light in one form or another. And so as I talk about this idea of belonging and community, I also want to look at some of the components that help us to get to that place of really knowing that we belong, knowing that we're all one. And so the first thing I want to talk about is there's a Christian practice of Advent. And when we look at the practice of Advent, it's really the celebration of the return of the Christ. And if we begin to understand that metaphysically, it's the opportunity that we have to step into greater hope, to step into greater faith, and to step into greater joy with the reclamation, if you will, of our own Christ consciousness. And so when I look at Christmas, I try to sort of scoop up all that power of the last 2,000 years or so that people have been practicing hope and faith and joy and Christ consciousness, and I bring it into my own heart in a way that's meaningful and congruent with our teaching. And so last week, many of our Christian brothers and sisters, Catholics, Protestants, lit the Advent candle, and they lit the first candle for hope. And this week, we light the candle for faith. And when I think about this idea of faith, I think that all practices, whether it's, this month we have the Festival of Lights, which is practiced by our Jewish brothers and sisters. We have the Advent, which is practiced by our Gentile brothers and sisters in Christian and Catholic and Protestant faiths. We also have Bodhi Day, which happens, I think it's Wednesday the 8th, and that is a celebration of the recognition of when Siddhartha recognized himself and became enlightened as the Buddha. And so all of these traditions combine to remind us of who we are. They remind us of the different components, tools, practices that we can incorporate so that we can practice our own philosophy. And that philosophy is this understanding that we are God in form. Now, if you're new to this philosophy, and I just said to you, you are God in form, that Christ has been reborn within you, that you are the second coming of Christ, well, you might be like, whew, that's a little blasphemous, don't you think? And if, we attract many people, and if you're God advertent, if you're not comfortable with the G word, you might be like, that's pure fiction. What the heck are you talking about? My over Marx, and why I bring it in, is because I think it's an opportunity for us to expand our awareness of the world around us, community, and to bring it home. And in this philosophy, we really look at this idea that the meaning of God inside ourselves, the meaning that we are God-informed, indeed looks at this idea that God creates itself over and over again in all form, in humans and animals. There's no exception. God recreates itself over and over again. It pours itself into creation. I think of it like the rays of the sun, where they're not separate from the sun, they're part of the sun. Or better yet, I like the example of waves on the ocean, right? Because the waves of the ocean, they rise up to take form, but without the ocean, they're nothing. Yet they look separate. And so I know that in this teaching that we really look at and have thousands of people have used this philosophy to begin to embrace this idea that we're God-informed. And they have prospered. And their lives have expanded, and their relationships have gotten clean and powerful and wonderful. And all of this unfolds for all of us until tragedy strikes, until we have a deep loss. And then sometimes we can begin to question that. Well, wait a minute, if everything is love and light, if we are God-informed, how could this be happening to me? It reminds me of a story that I read many years ago. You may have read this book yourself. It was quite popular, 8, 10 years ago. It was called The Shack. Has anybody read The Shack? Right. It's the story of a man who becomes very he experiences tragedy in his life, and he has a real crisis of faith. He begins to question everything that he believed before, and he has 3 children, and one of those children is lost to him. It's a tragedy. His daughter is killed, and he's absolutely despondent about it, and he finds himself in this otherworldly situation where he is introduced to the 3 faces of God: the Creator, grace, and Christ, or we might refer to them as the Spirit, the law, and the form. So he's introduced to these 3 faces of God, and at one point in the middle of the story, he finds himself in a meeting with Grace. And in the book, they named Grace Sophia, which is the Greek word for wisdom. And our hero, Mac, is absolutely, he's so lost in his grief and his anger about the situation, and he's confronting Sophia, and Sophia begins to challenge him. And the way she challenges him is to begin to insist that he must choose one of his 2 remaining children. Which one will go to heaven and which one will go to hell? This blows his mind. He's completely outraged and completely in that place of anger and upset and grief. And he looks at Sophia and he's like, "What the hell, God? How could you make me choose one of my kids?" Spoiler alert, because this, I believe, is the whole crux of the book and the story, where Sophia comes forward to him and tenderly says, "I know. We could never ask you to choose among your children. How could you expect God to do that? How could you expect God to choose among his beloved which ones would prosper and which ones would suffer?" Powerful, powerful story that really brings home actually our philosophy, that we are not at the mercy of some puppet God that is pulling strings and saying, this one will have a good life and this one will have a bad life. but that the experiences that we have, when they are difficult, those are the moments when we tend to separate ourselves. Those are the times when we begin to forget who we are, that we're born of that power and the presence of love that is God. And so this story reminded me of that crisis of faith, that place of doubt that we can sometimes get to. And of course, the example in the story brings it right home for Mac. He realizes there was no way he could choose, so how could God? And so when we look at this idea that there's no choice to be made, there's no one person that is more deserving of love than another. Well, this is when I want to bring it back into this idea of growing our faith and beginning to understand how community can be that beautiful vehicle for loving one another, that beautiful vehicle for growing our faith and understanding that love demonstrates in so many diverse ways. And yet, we fail to see it. We make those kinds of choices that Sophia was asking Mac to make. We make those little judgments, those little biases that separate us from each other. But if we're really made in the image and likeness of God, if we really are God-informed, then our work is not to make the choices of separation, but to make the choices of how we all belong to one another. I was driving home last Tuesday night. It was kind of late. I needed some half and half for my coffee, so I drove by the grocery store. And as I drove into the parking lot, I noticed a man that was digging deep in the trash can. And I felt a little benign fear well up in me. And the only thing I thought was I wanted to park away from him. And as I parked my car, I looked over, and another car had stopped. And a gentleman got out of his car, and he pulled his wallet out of his back pocket, and he pulled out a bill, and he gave it to the man. And the man just grabbed him by the arm, and you could see the gratitude was obvious that this person, this complete stranger, would give him money when he was searching a trash can for food. Subtle as it was, I'd made a choice of separation. And this complete stranger who made a different choice gave me an opportunity to make a different choice, to recognize where I had separated myself and to see how we were all one. It's that simple, folks. We make a choice. When we see somebody, when there's some kind of place where we begin to say, oh, I don't want to be like that person, or I don't want to be around that person, that's our opportunity to make that different choice of love. And that's how we create the beloved community. That's how we bring forth this idea of belonging. That we grow our faith in understanding that there is no other. There is no them. There is no us. There's only the one. There's only that one power and presence that has chosen to emanate and create itself over and over and over again in all the personalities and sizes and shapes and colors and genders and non-binary. All of it's God. There's no exception. Many of you know one of my teachers, although it's only through a daily email that I receive from him. One of my teachers is Richard Rohr, and he founded the Center for Action and Contemplation. He's a Franciscan monk who has really taken Christianity to that active and next level of new thought. He talks about all life being God in form. And so this morning, as I was reading his little commentary, he looked at the idea of true faith. And he talked about the Genesis story. And he equated eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil as a choice that we make in judgment of what is good and what is bad, rather than living from the faith that God's benevolent love is inherent in all creation. What a cool idea to see that idea that we sometimes get so lost in what we think we know. We get so lost in the knowledge of things that we let go of the power of the wisdom that grace can bring us in any moment. I read a wonderful quote about grace. And what I understand grace to be is that place where we find ourselves not seeing God in front of us in one form or another, and we choose to surrender to it. We choose to allow whatever's coming forward to be another demonstration of God. And so Anne Lamott writes that, I do not understand the mystery of grace, only that it meets us where we are, but doesn't leave us where it found us. It meets us where we are in the moment of indecision, in the moment of challenge, in the moment of fear, and carries us forward to a different place where we can begin to inhabit and understand and see God in every person and every situation. Because frankly, folks, there are lots of situations in this world that I live in that it's really hard for me to see God in it. It's really hard for me to see God in some of the tragedies that happen. And I'm not going to give you that Love and Light Brigade stuff that, there's a lesson in it for you. Sometimes tragedy is just tragedy. But it's how we walk through it that tends to be the gift. It's the things that we remember about who we are that bring us to a greater sense of enlightenment and community and unity. And so as we move through this holiday season, your invitation some of you used to follow a lot of traditions, and there's a hustle and bustle and a lot of things to do. But as we move through this holiday season, when you feel that, even if it's subtle, like my little parking lot episode, when you feel that little benign fear or irritation or frustration, see it as an opportunity to make a choice for love. And then ask love what it wants you to do. You may not have to do anything but change your mind, but there may be some action that's being called of you. You won't know unless you ask. You won't know unless you inquire. You won't know unless you really engage grace and allow it to take you someplace different. We build community by remembering that we all belong to each other, that there, in fact, is no other, that there's just another expression of God in front of me. It's another opportunity to love God in all its form. In community, we build faith that God comes in every flavor imaginable, and that our job is simply to remember that we belong together. And when we can remember this, when we can see God in someone else, when we can begin to elevate our awareness that God might be standing in front of us in disguise, when we can remember, well, then we belong wherever we go. We belong wherever we go when we can remember that we're all one and that there's no other that we're relating to. So friends, as we move through this holiday season, let's remember that faith is one of those tools that'll help bring us together. That love is that amazing power that will help us plug into grace so that we can indeed be in community. Thank you very much. So let's pray. And what I know is that there is indeed one love, one power, one presence. And this presence is recreating itself over and over and over again. It recreates itself as human beings. It recreates itself as the animals that we see around us. It recreates us in the nature, in the landscape. It recreates itself in the plastic. Everything is simply an expression of God made into form. That spirit is always experiencing itself as the world. That as we move through this beautiful holiday experience, that we can allow ourselves to see the meaning that is there for us, the opportunity, the hope, the faith, the love. That we are indeed the inheritors of a powerful and benevolent spirit that wants to lift us up and carry us through anything and everything. And so today, I know for each one of us a willingness to let go, a willingness to surrender what we think we know, so that we can engage Sophia, wisdom, the law, that thing that knows itself only as God. And that as we take each step, trusting grace, we will see abundantly and clearly that God is indeed who we are, and God is indeed who everyone we encounter is. And I know for each one of us, as we embrace this idea, as we begin to practice it and we begin to work it out in a deeper and more potent way, that there is a coming home to ourselves, a coming home to our community, a community that is wherever we are at any time, if we just let it in. And so it is with gratitude that I know this highest truth for myself, for everyone in the sound of my voice, that we are in community, that we do belong, that there is no such thing as not belonging. And so we live in that place of true union. And we give great thanks for it. And together we anchor this powerful word by saying together, and so it is. Thank you very much. And now it's time to bring back the talented, the wonderful, the amazing Alan Dale.
What a great message. As Ralph Cramden used to say, to the moon, Alice. You send me. Anyway, what I got from the message was that this season is about, the Christ in the heart that beats in there. That we're supposed to recognize it and express it with each other. And anyway, Diane told me earlier that this song is a heartbeat song. So let it beat. When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid.
just as long as you stand by. So darling, darling, stand by me.
Stand
Oh, stand by me.
Stand by me.
Oh, stand now.
Stand by me.
Stand by me. Stand by me. In the sky that we look upon should tumble and fall, or the mountain should crumble to the sea. No, I won't cry. No, I won't shed a tear. Just as long as you stand by. So darling, darling, stand by me.
Stand by me.
Oh, stand by me.
Stand by me.
Oh, stand now.
Stand by me.
Stand by me. Stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand by me?
Stand by me.
Oh, stand by me.
Stand by me.
Oh, stand.
Stand by me.
Stand by me. Stand by me. You know that you can always stand by me. Stand by me. Stand by me. Whenever you're in trouble, won't you stand
Stand by me. Stand
by me?
Stand by me.
Oh, you can stand
Stand
now.
by me. Stand by me.
Stand by me. Stand by me.
Stand by me.
Oh, stand by me. You know that you can always stand by me.
Oh, wow. That was absolutely spectacular. Let's give him another hand. Fabulous. Thank you so much. And thank you, Diane King Van, our music and choir director, for the beautiful music you bring to us every week, and to our wonderful band. Let's give them a hand. Oh, my gosh. That was great. It's time now for our conscious, committed giving. So if the stewards would come forward, please. I love this time. It's the first part of the month. And if you're like me, on the first of the month, I write my checks. I still do checks. I got hacked on the internet in my bank account 10 years ago, so I don't do that anymore. I do checks. So the first one I write is my one to the center, because I know that when I give my tithe, that it expands and it grows for everyone around me and in everyone else's in my own life. So this is your day to give your tithe, give your gift, and then here you go. If it's not, there's a card in the back of your chair or in the front of you, and it's a blessing card. And I write my check and mail it in, so I always put these in instead. So in deep gratitude for all my blessings, I place this card in the basket. I ask that these offerings be blessed, appreciated, and multiplied. It is my honor to give my blessing in this way. Thank you, God, universe, spirit. So let us say our affirmation together. My offering is my acceptance of God as the source of my supply, and it symbolizes my faith in the abundant flow of this supply. Thank you.
In the circle I belong, in that feast
do I awaken to the truth of the abundant way. In the circle I will stay. In the circle I belong. In that peace do I awaken to the truth of the abundant way. In the circle I will stay. In the circle I belong. In that peace do I awaken to the truth of the abundant way. In the circle I will stay.
And let us bless these gifts. As these financial gifts circulate throughout our community, we know that each recipient is blessed with divine abundance. We are so grateful for the energy of God as money. Thank you, God, for the gift of prosperity. And so it is. And now, invitations. Of course. How could I forget all of you? We're so grateful for all the volunteers and everybody that helps put this service on and have been busy behind the scenes all week long. That's everyone. So please stand if you've been in service this week. Thank you. Thank you so much. And among these people are practitioners, which are people that have been trained in the art and the science of affirmative prayer, of spiritual mind treatment. Mary Casa has been in the back of the room holding the high watch for us for this entire service. And what that means is she has just been in prayer, opening our hearts and opening our minds to the wisdom of Reverend Alice this morning. So Mary Casa is one of our practitioners. Paula Manis is the one that lit our candles this morning. And we have Jody Charton, if you would stand, Jody. Counting money, sorry. We're double duty here. Okay, so those people are available to you for a little taste of that, or if you've hit a bump in your road this week, they're available at the tables, no, in the multipurpose room today and in the tranquility room for a prayer to get you through that time where you can't see the forest for the trees. I use them all the time. It's very valuable. Okay, and then is there anyone new here today? A guest? Do you have any guests? We do have some guests here today. We have a gift for you. If you would keep your hand up, please, and we will deliver it right to you. It's a card, and if you fill that out and you take it into the bookstore, you'll get another gift, which is a card. Let's welcome our guests today. Okay, now invitations.
Well, before invitations, we want to recognize those birthdays in December. So if you have a December birthday, please stand. We're going to sing to you. Barbara. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
invitations. As you can see, today is our holiday boutique and brunch. After the service, you are invited to enjoy some yummy food and to start your holiday shopping. Conscious Connection will resume next week.
And this holiday season, we have adopted 2 families to support and helping make it a more joyful experience for them by purchasing some Christmas gifts for the kids. There's a table in the back of the room, and Barbara Lindquist will be back there to answer any questions you have.
This giving season on Facebook. If you commit to a monthly donation of any amount by December 31st, Facebook will match your donation up to $100 beginning the second month. Go to our official giving season page on Facebook to register your recurring monthly donation. You can also go to Reverend Alice Reid's Giving Tuesday fundraiser Facebook page to make a one-time donation to the Center for Giving Tuesday.
So our annual candle lighting service will be on Christmas Eve at 5 p.m. We'll start the caroling at 4:45, and you're invited to come and bring your family and friends and just enjoy a beautiful evening of light and love.
Our World Peace Meditation is coming up on New Year's Eve morning at 12 Greenwich Mean Time, which translates to 4 a.m. our time. Join Patrick, me, and a few others who are dedicated to world peace and join in the conscious effort to create a world free from war and discord.
So plan to be here on New Year's Day because our service will consist of a burning bowl ceremony, a labyrinth walk, and vision boarding, so you don't want to miss that.
On Friday, January 13th, we're having a 5-3 fundraiser concert. Not only will you enjoy the music of the best band ever, the Beatles, as presented by Dave Friedman, Karen Allen, and me. There will also be fun opportunity drawings for you to bid upon and support our spiritual center. Yeah.
And of course, you're always invited to participate in our weekly groups, which include our book study with Mary on Zoom each Wednesday morning from 9:30 to 11, Shifting Sands, which meets on Thursday mornings in our multi-purpose room from 10:30 to 12:30 and on Zoom, and Coming Home Awakening to Spirit, which meets on Friday mornings at 8 a.m. on Zoom. So there are invitations with all this information available for you out in the lobby. And have we done it all? Yeah. We've done it all. Now it's time for you to stand and sing our closing song.
One life living as you and me, one light shining as you and me, one love loving as you and me, 'cause God is all there is. One light shining as you and me, one light shining as you and me, one love loving as you and me, 'cause God is all there is. I'm shining from the inside out, I'm so happy, I just want to shout. One light living as you and me, one light shining as you and me, one love loving as you and me, 'cause God is all there is. One life living as you and me, one light shining as you and me, one love loving as you and me, 'cause God is all there is. 'Cause God is all there is. 'Cause God is all there is.
And so indeed we walk through this week, if not this entire month, shining that light of God so that when we look out before us, all we see is God. And so it is.